When my daughter told me she was pregnant, I remember the sound of the rain outside. It wasn't heavy, just that soft, steady drizzle that fills a quiet house, but somehow the rhythm of it felt louder than her voice. And yet, in that moment, her trembling words cut through everything. "Mum, I need to tell you something." If only I had known that sentence would shatter everything I believed about family, loyalty and love. For a long time my life had been steady, predictable even. I was married to Daniel for 22 years. We had built what I thought was a good life. Modest, but comfortable. Our daughter Emily was the light of our home. She had just turned 19, and though we'd had our share of arguments, I still thought she was my best friend. Every morning followed a familiar rhythm. Daniel would leave early for work at his brother's construction firm. He and his younger brother Michael had always been close. Michael was the charming one, the kind who could make anyone laugh even in the middle of an argument. He wasn't married, but he was around a lot. Family dinners, weekend barbecues, fixing things around the house. I trusted him like family. Because he was family. Sometimes I'd come home and find him helping Emily with her car or teasing her about her college plans. He treated her like a niece. At least that's what I thought. Looking back now, I wonder how many times I ignored the strange energy in the room. The way Emily's laughter sometimes sounded nervous when he was around. That day, the day she told me, she came home pale, quiet. Her clothes were damp from the rain. She stood by the doorway, clutching her phone as if it were the only thing keeping her upright. "Emily?" I asked. "What's wrong?" She didn't answer right away. She just stared at the floor. And then she whispered, "Mum, I think I'm pregnant." My heart didn't break right away. It paused. The kind of pause that stretches forever. The air too still. The sound of the rain suddenly too sharp. I went to her, took her cold hands in mine, and tried to keep my voice calm. Okay, sweetheart, we'll get through this. You're not alone." She nodded. Her eyes glistened with tears, and I saw fear, deep, shaking fear. "Who is it?" I asked softly. "Does he know?" Her lips parted, but no sound came out, and for the first time that day I felt something twist in my chest. She looked at me, tears spilling down her face. It's Uncle Michael." I remember the sound that came out of me. It wasn't even a scream. It was a gasp, strangled and small, like air being stolen from my lungs. I stepped back as if the words themselves had burned me. "What did you just say?" "Mum, please," she started, but I raised my hand instinctively, not in anger, but in disbelief. No, Emily, you must have misunderstood. He wouldn't..." But she shook her head, sobbing now. "It's true. It happened. I didn't mean for it to... It just happened." My knees went weak, and I sank into the nearest chair. I could hear the rain again, louder now, drumming against the windows, as if mocking my silence. "Emily," I whispered. "He's your uncle." "I know," she said, her voice cracking. "It was a mistake. We didn't mean to, I snapped, my voice trembling. "You were involved with him? How long?" She couldn't look at me. Her hands shook as she wiped her tears. Since last year. Last year. A full year of laughter, dinners, holidays, me smiling across the table, completely blind. I pressed my palms to my face, trying to steady the storm inside me. My mind raced back to every small, ordinary moment that now felt poisoned. The way Michael would insist on picking her up from campus. The way he'd sit beside her during family dinners instead of me. The jokes they shared that I didn't understand. All of it, every memory, crumbling into something I didn't recognize. "Does your father know?" I asked finally. She shook her head. "No, please, Mom, don't tell him yet." "I can't. He'll hate me." I wanted to say he'll hate Michael. But part of me already knew he'd hate me too, because I should have seen it. I should have protected her. That night I didn't sleep. Daniel came home late, smelling faintly of whiskey, and kissed my cheek without noticing the red in my eyes. I watched him, wondering how I'd ever tell him that his little brother had done something unforgivable. I sat in the dark until morning, hands wrapped around a cup of cold tea, thinking of the word betrayal. How small it sounds compared to how it feels. The next day I called Michael. My voice was steady, but my hands were shaking. "Can you come by?" I said. "I need to talk to you. Alone." He sounded casual, almost cheerful. "Sure thing, sis. Everything okay?" I almost laughed at the word sis. When he arrived, Emily wasn't home. I made sure of that. He walked in with that familiar grin, but it faltered when he saw my face. "What's wrong?" he asked. I pointed to the chair. "Sit down." He did, confusion creasing his brow. Then I said it, quietly but clearly. "I know about Emily." For a long moment he didn't move, didn't blink. Then he looked down, exhaled slowly and whispered, "I was afraid you'd find out." There was no denial, no shock, just that hollow admission that made my stomach turn. "How could you?" I said. My voice was shaking. "She's a child. She trusted you." He rubbed his temples, his voice low. "It wasn't supposed to happen. She was lonely. I was stupid. It just happened." "It just happened," I repeated, rising to my feet. "You destroyed this family, Michael." He looked at me then. Guilt, yes, but also something else. Fear. "Please," he said. "Don't tell Daniel. He'll kill me." I stared at him for a long time, and in that moment I realized he wasn't sorry for what he did. He was sorry he got caught. That night I sat beside Emily as she slept, her face pale and tear-stained. I brushed her hair back and my chest ached with love and heartbreak all tangled together. She was still my daughter, still my baby. But now she was also carrying the weight of a secret that could destroy us all. I looked out the window at the dark sky and whispered, "God, tell me what to do." Because whatever came next, I knew there was no going back. The next morning, sunlight spilled through the lace curtains, cutting tiny golden squares across the kitchen counter. I was stirring oatmeal when I noticed Emily sitting at the table, staring at nothing. Her spoon hovered in mid-air, her eyes far away. "Did you sleep at all?" I asked softly. She blinked, as if pulled from a dream. "A little," she whispered. I reached out, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "We'll figure this out, sweetheart. Together." She nodded, but I could see the storm behind her eyes. She was 19, old enough to understand consequences, but still my little girl who once used to sleep with her stuffed rabbit every night. We sat in silence for a moment, just the faint hum of the refrigerator filling the room. Then I asked the question that had been sitting like a stone in my throat. "Who's the father, Emily?" Her spoon clattered against the bowl. Her eyes welled up. "Mum, please don't hate me." I froze. The sound of her voice, it was too heavy, too full of dread. "I could never hate you," I said quickly. "But I need to know, baby. I need to understand." She stared at her lap, hands trembling. "It's Uncle Mark." The name hit me like a slap. The wooden spoon dropped from my hand, oatmeal splattering onto the floor. For a second, I thought I'd misheard her. My husband's brother. Mark. My mind spun back to all those family dinners, the laughter, the teasing, the way Mark always seemed so comfortable in our home. He was charming, funny, always helping with the dishes, always offering to drive Emily home after family gatherings. I felt something crack deep inside my chest. "What did you just say?" I asked, my voice shaking. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "I didn't mean for it to happen, Mom. I swear. I didn't know what to do. I was confused and scared and—" Her words came out in broken sobs. I couldn't breathe. The room tilted slightly, my ears buzzing. "Mark? Your Uncle Mark?" I repeated, as if saying it again might change the truth. She nodded, her face buried in her hands. The next sound I heard was my own heartbeat, loud and uneven. Then the kettle began to whistle on the stove, shrill, piercing, almost mocking. I turned it off, my hands trembling so badly I nearly dropped it. "When did this happen?" I finally managed. She hesitated. "A few months ago, after Aunt Claire's birthday party. He offered to drive me home. I didn't think anything of it." Her voice broke again. "He said I was mature for my age, that he just wanted to talk, but then Mom, I didn't know how to say no. I froze. My chest tightened. I felt sick. The world around me blurred, the ticking clock, the faint smell of cinnamon, Emily's quiet sobs, all melting into a dull roar of disbelief. That man, my husband's brother, the same man who'd held my baby in his arms when she was born, the same man who sat at our table calling me sis. I pressed a hand over my mouth, trying not to scream. "Did he threaten you?" I whispered. She shook her head. "No, he said he loved me, that we had something special, and I wanted to believe him." I felt tears burn at the corners of my eyes, the anger, the disgust, the heartbreak. They all collided inside me. I wanted to hold her, to tell her everything would be okay, but another part of me wanted to storm out and find Mark, to make him pay for what he'd done. Instead, I pulled Emily close. She sobbed into my shoulder, her whole body shaking. "You did nothing wrong," I said firmly, even though my own voice quivered. "You were manipulated. He took advantage of you." But as I said it, another thought crept into my mind. My husband, Daniel, Mark's older brother. How could I tell him? How could I look into his eyes and destroy everything he believed about his family? That night, I didn't sleep. I lay beside Daniel, staring at the ceiling. His breathing was steady, unaware. He'd always defended Mark, even when Mark lost jobs or borrowed money. "He's family," Daniel would say. "He's just had a rough time." Family. The word tasted bitter now. I turned to face the window, watching the moonlight spill across the curtains. Somewhere in that pale light, I made a silent promise. I would protect my daughter. I would uncover the truth. And Mark, he wouldn't get away with this. The next day I called Mark. My hands shook so hard I nearly dropped the phone. He answered with his usual smooth tone. "Hey sis, everything okay?" I gritted my teeth. "We need to talk." "Sure, what's up?" "In person." He hesitated, then said, "All right, my place at 6. "Fine." When I hung up, my heart was pounding so loudly I could feel it in my throat. Emily sat quietly on the couch, watching me. "Are you going to tell Dad?" she asked. "Not yet," I said softly. "I need to hear it from him first." Her eyes were red from crying. "Mum, please don't go alone." I gave her a faint smile. "I won't let him hurt us again." But inside, I wasn't sure if I believed that. When I arrived at Mark's apartment that evening, the air was heavy with the scent of stale beer and aftershave. He greeted me with a grin, one that vanished when he saw my expression. "Something wrong?" he asked, feigning confusion. I closed the door behind me. "You tell me, Mark. What did you do to my daughter?" He froze. The smile fell away. For a long moment, he didn't speak. Then he sighed, rubbing his neck. "She told you," he muttered. "She's 19, I snapped. "You're her uncle, her father's brother." He held up his hands. "Calm down, okay? It wasn't like that. We care about each other." "Care?" I could barely contain my rage. "You call that care? You manipulated her." He stepped closer, his expression hardening. "You don't understand, Karen. She came to me. She wanted—" "Don't you dare," I hissed. "Don't you dare blame her for your filth." For a second I thought he might deny it, twist it again. But then he looked away, silent. That silence told me everything. Mark leaned against the counter, arms crossed, trying to regain that smug composure he was known for. "You're overreacting, Karen," he said, his tone cold now. "What's done is done. Emily's not a kid anymore." I felt my nails dig into my palm. "She is a child to me, and you—" My voice broke for a moment. "You're a predator." His jaw clenched. "Watch what you're saying. That's a serious accusation." "Serious?" I shot back, taking a step closer. "You took advantage of a young girl who trusted you. My daughter Mark. My family." He tried to look away, but I caught the flicker of guilt in his eyes. It was brief, so brief that someone else might have missed it. But I saw it. "I can fix this," he muttered. "We can figure something out before Daniel finds out." That name hung between us like a blade. I took a breath, forcing myself not to scream. "You think I'd help you hide this?" He shrugged. You love your husband, don't you? Do you really want to destroy him? He'll never recover if he finds out what she and I— Stop talking, I snapped. My voice echoed off the walls. You don't get to use his love to shield yourself. You already destroyed this family. He sighed and rubbed his face. Look, I made a mistake, okay? I didn't plan for it to happen. Mistake? I repeated softly. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. This— I gestured sharply. This is evil. He didn't reply. Just stared at the floor, jaw tight, as if the gravity of what he'd done was finally dawning on him. But I didn't believe in his guilt. Not yet. I turned toward the door, every step heavy. If I were you, Mark, I'd start praying, because once Daniel knows there's no coming back from this. Before I could reach for the handle, his voice stopped me. You'll ruin everything, he said quietly. You'll tear this family apart. I turned, tears burning my eyes. No, Mark, you already did that. And I left. That night, the air in our house felt wrong, too still, too quiet. Daniel was in the living room watching TV, his laughter echoing faintly, the kind of laughter that comes before a storm. I stood in the doorway for a moment, studying him. My husband. The man I'd loved for 20 years. How do you tell someone their brother ruined your daughter's life? Hey, you okay? He asked, glancing up. I nodded, forcing a smile. Just tired. Long day. He patted the couch beside him. Come sit with me. It's been forever since we just watched something together. For a second, I almost did. I almost let it go, just for one more night of peace. But the image of Emily crying in my arms wouldn't leave me. Daniel, I said, my voice small. Yeah? There's something we need to talk about. He muted the TV, his eyes instantly serious. What is it? You look pale. I sat down slowly, my fingers twisting in my lap. It's about Emily. His posture changed, protective, concerned. Is she okay? No, I whispered. She's pregnant. He blinked, processing. Pregnant? His voice softened. Oh God, she's just a kid. Who's the father? I hesitated. Every second that passed felt like 1,000 heartbeats. When I finally spoke, my voice broke. It's Mark. At first, he didn't react. He just stared at me as if I'd spoken in another language. Then his expression shifted, from confusion to disbelief, to something darker. What? He asked, his tone low. I swallowed hard. It's Mark. She told me herself. He stood up abruptly, the colour draining from his face. No, that's not possible. He wouldn't. Daniel, it's true. He paced the room, running his hands through his hair. You're saying my brother, my own brother, got our daughter pregnant? I nodded, tears streaming down my face. He manipulated her, Daniel. He took advantage of her trust. He slammed his fist against the wall, the sound sharp and hollow. I'll kill him. Daniel! I swear to God, Karen, I'll kill him. His voice cracked, full of a pain I'd never heard before. He turned toward the door, but I grabbed his arm. Please, listen to me. We can't lose control. Emily needs us. If you go to him now, it'll only make things worse. He yanked his arm free, breathing heavily. How long have you known? Since yesterday. And you didn't tell me. I wanted to be sure, I said quietly. I went to see him. Daniel froze. You what? I confronted him. He admitted it. For a long time, he didn't move. Then he slumped onto the couch, burying his face in his hands. The silence between us was deafening. Finally, he spoke, voice trembling. He was my best friend, Karen. My brother. How could he do this to us? I sat beside him, gently placing a hand on his back. I don't know. But we'll protect Emily. That's all that matters now. He looked up at me, eyes red and hollow. What are we supposed to do? Call the police? Tell the family? I hesitated. The idea of dragging Emily through a public scandal felt unbearable, but silence meant letting Mark walk free. I'll talk to Emily, I said finally. If she's ready, we'll go to the police. Daniel nodded weakly. I can't believe this. My own brother. I felt the same disbelief, like we'd stepped into a nightmare that had no exit. The next few days passed in a blur. Emily avoided everyone, locking herself in her room. Daniel couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. And me? I tried to keep the house running, pretending to be strong while every part of me was cracking. The smell of coffee made me nauseous now. It reminded me of that morning when Emily told me the truth. The walls of our house, once warm, felt suffocating. Then on the fourth day, Daniel said quietly, "We need to tell my parents." I froze mid-step. "Are you sure?" He nodded. "They deserve to know what kind of son they raised." I wanted to argue, but deep down, I knew he was right. The next evening we drove to his parents' house, a small old home that still smelled like Sunday dinners and garden roses. When his mother opened the door, she smiled, unaware of the storm we were about to bring in. "Daniel! Karen! Come in, come in!" Mark wasn't there. Thank God. We sat in the living room and Daniel's father turned down the TV. "Everything all right, son?" Daniel's voice was strained. "No, Dad, it's not." And then he told them everything, every word, every horror. By the time he finished, his mother was sobbing quietly into her hands, and his father sat motionless, staring at the floor. "This can't be true," his father murmured. "Mark wouldn't..." But the truth hung heavy, undeniable. That night ended in silence. The next morning, Daniel woke up before sunrise. He didn't speak much, but I could see the storm brewing in his eyes, the kind that destroys everything in its path before peace ever has a chance. He stood by the window, staring at the faint light filtering through the curtains. "I called Mark," he said quietly. "Told him to meet us at Mum and Dad's house this evening." I felt my stomach twist. "Daniel, are you sure about this?" He nodded slowly, eyes distant. "I need to hear it from him. I need him to say it to my face." I reached for his hand. "Just promise me you won't do something you'll regret." He didn't answer. He didn't have to. The silence said it all. By evening, the air outside was heavy, like it knew what was coming. Daniel's parents were already waiting when we arrived. His mother looked 10 years older overnight. His father sat in the corner, his hands trembling as he gripped his coffee cup. Mark showed up a few minutes later, wearing a navy jacket and his usual false confidence. He smiled faintly when he saw us. "What's going on?" Daniel stood up immediately, jaw tight. "You know damn well what's going on." Mark frowned. "If this is about Emily..." "Don't!" Daniel interrupted, his voice shaking with fury. "Don't you dare say her name!" Mark's smirk faltered. For a moment, the room was utterly silent, except for the clock ticking on the wall. Daniel took a step closer. "I want to hear it from you. Did you sleep with my daughter?" Mark's face went pale. "Daniel, listen! Answer me!" "Yes," he finally blurted, voice low, ashamed. "It wasn't planned. It just... happened." The sound that left Daniel's throat wasn't quite a scream. It was something deeper, rawer, a father's heartbreak, a brother's fury. He lunged forward, grabbing Mark by the collar and shoving him against the wall. "How could you?" he shouted. "She trusted you, we trusted you." Mark didn't fight back. He just kept muttering, "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Daniel's father stood, his voice trembling. "Enough! Both of you!" Daniel froze but didn't let go right away. He was shaking, chest heaving, eyes glassy with rage. His mother was crying now, whispering, "How did this happen? How did my family become this?" I felt tears burning behind my eyes, but I couldn't let them fall. Someone had to stay steady. "Mark," I said quietly, "Emily is 17. You're a grown man. You knew what you were doing." He turned to me, voice cracking. "Karen, I swear I didn't mean to hurt anyone. She was lonely. I was going through a rough patch. One night we talked and..." "Stop!" Daniel barked. "You're blaming her? You're blaming my daughter for your weakness?" Mark dropped his gaze. "No, I'm just trying to explain." "There's nothing to explain," Daniel shouted. "You disgust me." He turned to his parents. "Call the police, Dad. He's not leaving this house until he answers for what he did." Mark's father looked torn apart, but he nodded slowly. Daniel's right. What you did, it's a crime. Mark's mother gasped. He's your brother. Daniel met her eyes, his voice breaking. And she's my daughter. The words hung in the air, shaking the foundation of that home more than any storm could. Mark looked around, desperate now. Please, don't do this. I'll turn myself in. Just don't destroy the family. Daniel's voice was cold. You destroyed it the moment you touched her. The police arrived 20 minutes later. It felt unreal. Watching them walk into that familiar living room, reading Mark his rights, handcuffing him in front of his parents. He didn't resist. He just kept his head down. As they led him out, he looked at me and said, "Tell Emily I'm sorry." I couldn't respond. There were no words for that kind of pain. When the door closed, Daniel's mother broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Her husband held her, whispering, "We'll get through this. Somehow." Daniel stood still for a long time, staring at the empty doorway. I stepped closer and touched his arm. "He's gone," I said softly. He nodded. "Yeah, but so is everything I thought I knew about my family." The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. Our home felt hollow. Even Emily's room, usually a mess of clothes and laughter, was painfully still. I spent my mornings sitting by her door, hoping she'd talk. Sometimes I'd hear her crying softly, other times nothing at all. Finally, one night she opened the door. Her face was pale, eyes swollen. "Is he in jail?" she asked. I nodded. "Yes." She looked down, voice trembling. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I thought he cared about me." I pulled her into my arms. "You were manipulated, baby. None of this is your fault." She sobbed against my shoulder. "I ruined everything, Mom." "No," I whispered, holding her tighter. "He did." We sat there on her bed for a long time, not saying anything. Just breathing, crying, surviving. Later that week, Daniel came into her room for the first time since everything happened. He stood there quietly, unsure of what to say. Emily spoke first. "Dad, I'm sorry." Daniel's eyes softened. "You don't have to apologize, sweetheart. You didn't do anything wrong." He knelt beside her and took her hand. "I know this is hard, but I need you to know. I love you. Nothing will ever change that." For the first time in days, Emily smiled weakly. "I love you too." I watched them, tears streaming silently down my face. For the first time, it felt like we might survive this. A month later, Mark pleaded guilty. The trial was quick, the judgment harsh but fair. The newspapers called it a suburban scandal, but to us, it was a wound that would never fully heal. Daniel didn't attend the hearings after the first day. "I've already lost a brother," he said. "I don't need to watch him become a stranger." Life went on, but nothing was the same. Emily started therapy. She decided to keep the baby. She said she wanted to raise the child with love, the kind of love she never received from its father. And me? I started journaling. Writing helped me breathe again. Sometimes I'd sit by the window at night, listening to the crickets, feeling the quiet peace of survival. We were broken once, but we were still here, still standing. 6 months later, the house was quiet again, but not empty. There was laughter now, faint but real, echoing through the hallways. The kind that used to fill our lives before everything fell apart. Emily's belly had grown round. She was glowing in a way that only a soon-to-be mother could. But her eyes, they still carried the shadows of the past. Some nights, I'd find her sitting on the porch, looking at the stars. She'd whisper, "Do you think he'll ever forgive me?" And every time I'd say the same thing. "There's nothing to forgive, sweetheart. You were hurt, not guilty." But she never fully believed me. Maybe she needed time. The one thing that heals everything. Slowly and silently. Daniel had changed too. He wasn't the same man who once came home whistling after work, or who used to sneak chocolates into Emily's school bag. The fire inside him had cooled. Not gone, just tempered by grief. I'd catch him sometimes, sitting alone, staring at the ultrasound photo stuck to the fridge. One night, I placed my hand on his shoulder. He didn't look up, just said quietly, "I thought becoming a father was the best thing that ever happened to me. I never imagined I'd have to do it twice. Once for my child and again for my grandchild. I smiled faintly, though tears filled my eyes. You're still the same man, Daniel. Maybe stronger than before. He finally looked at me. And for the first time in months, there was peace in his eyes. Maybe. But I'll never understand how people forgive monsters. I squeezed his hand. Sometimes forgiveness isn't for them. It's for us. So we can breathe again. The day Emily went into labour, it was raining. Not the heavy kind, just a soft drizzle that washed the dust off the world. We rushed to the hospital. Daniel was silent the whole drive, gripping the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. Hours later, the nurse came out smiling. "Congratulations," she said softly. "It's a boy." I felt something warm burst inside me, joy, pain, hope, all tangled together. When they placed that tiny baby in Emily's arms, the entire world seemed to hold its breath. She looked down at him, tears falling onto his blanket. Daniel stood beside her, frozen. Then slowly, he reached out and touched the baby's cheek. Emily looked up. "Dad, meet Noah." Daniel blinked hard. "Noah? Yeah," she whispered. "It means rest, peace." He nodded, voice trembling. "It's perfect." Then for the first time in almost a year, he smiled. A real gentle smile. The following weeks were quiet but full of light. Emily was healing, physically and emotionally. The house that once echoed with silence now hummed with lullabies and soft baby cries. Daniel became Noah's shadow. He'd feed him, rock him to sleep, talk to him for hours like he was the only thing that made sense anymore. One afternoon, I found him sitting on the porch with Noah in his arms. The baby was giggling, grabbing Daniel's fingers. "He has your eyes," I said, smiling. Daniel looked at the child, voice soft. "Maybe that's a sign. Maybe this family isn't doomed after all." I sat beside him. "We were never doomed, just tested." He nodded slowly. "You know, I used to wish Mark had never been born." He looked out at the fields. But if that were true, Noah wouldn't exist either. Silence lingered between us, gentle and thoughtful. "Life's complicated," I said. Daniel chuckled softly. "Yeah, but sometimes the ugliest chapters lead to the most beautiful endings." Emily started therapy again, this time with new determination. She wanted to understand herself, to grow stronger, to break the cycle of pain before it reached Noah. She enrolled in community college too, said she wanted to study social work, to help girls who felt lost like she once did. The day she got her acceptance letter, she came running into the kitchen, waving it in the air. "I did it, Mom." I hugged her tight. "You didn't just do it. You rose from the ashes." Daniel clapped from the table, his smile wide. "Noah's going to be proud of his mama." For the first time, laughter filled the house again, pure, light, unbroken. Months passed, seasons changed. Mark was still in prison. He wrote letters sometimes, letters we never read. Daniel kept them all in a box under the bed, unopened. One evening, he handed me the box. "You decide what to do with them." I took it out to the backyard. The sky was orange and gold, sunset bleeding into twilight. I opened one letter, just one. It started with, "I don't expect forgiveness. I just hope the baby grows up surrounded by love, not hate." I didn't cry. I didn't forgive. But for the first time, I didn't feel anger either. I burned the letters one by one under that fading light. The smoke rose gently, like the ghosts of the past finally leaving us. A year later, Noah took his first steps. Emily screamed with joy, Daniel recorded it, and I laughed so hard I nearly fell off the couch. It wasn't a grand moment, just an ordinary, perfect one. The kind that reminds you life goes on, and that's the miracle. That night, as I tucked Noah into his crib, Emily whispered, "Mum, do you think I'll ever be able to tell him the truth?" I paused. "One day when he's ready, but by then it won't matter, because he'll know what love looks like." She smiled, tears in her eyes. "Thanks for never giving up on me." I brushed her hair back. A mother doesn't give up. She just waits for her child to come home again. Sometimes I still dream of that night, the shouting, the heartbreak, the police lights. But now when I wake up, I hear Noah's laughter down the hall. And that sound reminds me, even from the darkest stories, something good can be born. Because forgiveness isn't forgetting. It's choosing to build something beautiful on top of the ruins. And that's what we did. We rebuilt our lives. We found peace. And we learned that even when love betrays you, family, real family, always finds its way back home.